Far Cry, a series that has spanned across multiple maps and landscapes, known for basing its stories loosely on real-life locations and struggles. Ubisoft churn out these bad boys fairly often, providing modified takes on an open-world formula that seems to be so in right now. Open-world formulas have the same tendencies and generally reach out in the same way. Let's take a deeper look at Far Cry 6, delving into its new mechanics, setting, and story. I have to say, after the trailer with Giancarlo Esposito as Castillo, I was hyped to play the game. The man has such gravitas that he can successfully play any villain's role and make it seem like he is an actual real-life villain. But I digress. Here is the Far Cry 6 review. Let's break it down. As someone who has never visited Cuba, I feel like the fictional setting of Yara is the closest I'll get. I've always loved the idea of a game with a Cuban-themed setting, and Far Cry 6 does a great job of immersing us in a world by bringing it to life with incredibly detailed vistas. You'll skydive amongst beautiful blue skies, cast your eyes on glistening oceans and pearly white sandy beaches, delve into thick Amazon-like jungles, and explore ancient ruins. And that's only on the first tutorial island. Then, the whole of Yara opens up, and you'll get a chance to explore a makeshift Cuba. As someone who is from an island, I definitely fell in love with the setting, but that couldn't have happened without the improved graphics of Far Cry 6. In 4K, running at 60 FPS, the game looked like a dream. I realized that running this game on those settings would make most PCs explode in a fireball, but even in 2K and 1080p, the game still looked and felt great. Gently cruising in an open-top Jeep, listening to tonally appropriate tracks on the radio was a highlight for me. The world, beautiful. The characters, also a sight for sore eyes. The models, excellently crafted. Especially the main cast of characters. Our protagonist, Danny, has a wide range of facial animations that convey different feelings during their tumultuous journey through Yara. And each character, whether it be the tyrant Castillo or the revolutionary Clara, have intricate models and animations. I was truly impressed by this Far Cry. The weapons and the guns provide the slap-bang wallop that you'd expect from a game like Far Cry. Especially the new equipment, the Supremos, which definitely add a touch of flair to the day-to-day goings of a guerrilla fighter. Each weapon looks great and feels much improved over the previous games. The authenticity of the look of the weapons goes a long way into making you feel empowered. Speaking of empowered, don't get me started on how much I love Chorizo, running around with a doggy in a makeshift wheelchair who attacks enemies while I pick them off with a 50 caliber sniper rifle is the best feeling. I have so much love for Chorizo that I'd often fly into a fit of pure rage whenever someone laid so much as a finger on him. That's how good the graphics are this year. Okay, so if you know Far Cry, you know what to expect, but for those of you who don't, let me break it down. You have an open world filled with main missions, side missions, as well as side activities which could range from tackling an enemy fort to finding collectibles. There are also a variety of side activities, including a nice little game mode that allows you to revisit iconic Far Cry villains. You have a multiplayer element in the form of missions you undertake separate from your own game world, which reward you with currency to unlock cosmetics and new guns. In every Far Cry game there is a ludicrous quantity of things to do, and Far Cry 6 is no different in that sense. You easily lose hours in various side missions, and you just as easily lose even more hours hunting game across the island. The list can be exhausting, especially for new players, but ultimately they provide a lot of fun. There are so many ways to tackle this game, or whether it be a funky new weapon like a gun that plays the Macarena, or a more traditional weapon, you'll always have many ways to achieve your goal, and you'll find that many of these ways embrace a confluence of different playstyle archetypes. One to be a sniper who can drop enemies from afar and then closes the distance using a flamethrower? You can do that. I've always loved the chaos of the Far Cry games, and the new Supremo backpacks allow for the player to have a special move which can range from a missile salvo to a self-revive. Although the Supremos aren't enough to shift the formula radically, they are enough to add some new flavor to that Far Cry formula. Sprinkle in a little bit of crafting and gathering, and you have yourself a small army's worth of munitions, amigos, and most importantly a doggy who you must give your in-game life for. The game starts off a little slow, and I'll admit it, I was bored at the start, but by the end of my 25-hour playthrough, I had skydived out of a flying car, gone swimming with sharks, and killed a general with a gun that plays the Macarena, and successfully dove into the minds of previous Far Cry villains and come out slightly disturbed, but ultimately I really had a fun time with this game. Far Cry 6 is an authentic exploration of Latin culture, and I loved it. The diversity of having a Latin protagonist really resonated with me, and not because I'm Latin, but because it's about time that we changed up the protagonist for modern day games. I played as a female Dani, who came across as an absolute powerhouse of personality, assertive, empathetic, and most importantly, realistic. She felt like an actual human, rather than this cardboard cutout of a general protagonist, and even though the main story comes across as a bit cliche and predictable, the cast of characters really carried the story. The game had some tremendous performances from Clara and Castillo, played by Jess Salguero and Giancarlo Esposito respectively. Carrying a story which would otherwise be lackluster is an incredible feat, especially for a game that has the same formula year after year. In the world of Yara, Anton Castillo is a tyrant, and Clara is the guerrilla fighter, and the two go head to head in an attempt to either conquer or free the island. As you can tell, it's going to have an extremely predictable ending, which is one of my main gripes about the Far Cry series. The stories are set out in stone, even before you get going. It would be fantastic to see a Far Cry game where the script is flipped on its head, maybe even making the protagonist the villain this time around. Well, one can dream. It would be generous of me to say that this game ran okay. I experienced a lot of performance issues with the game, and I had to do an hour of tweaking my settings in order to gain 4K 60 FPS. Not only that, but the game's high resolution texture pack actually made the game look worse. That's a big yikes in my book, considering it's a separate file that you have to download. How was that not checked before release? I also had various crashes, mostly stemming from graphics glitches, and I even had a glitch where my Far Cry turned into a top-down shooter. Think I'm joking? Check this out. What's actually interesting though, is that I kind of dug it. It looked really cool and felt playable until I remembered that this game operates in a 3D space, which includes aiming. And before I knew it, I was shooting into the floor, being run over by horses, and then falling through maps. But hey, food for thought, right? Finally, the benchmark isn't an accurate representation of performance when you're actually playing. You'll have to adjust some settings, and there's definitely some things you should tweak. I'd definitely leave the DXR shadows off and turn the shadows down to medium if you want any hope of having a stable FPS. You'll have a much better time with 2K or 1080p providing your card can run it. But even with a high-end card, it's a little disappointing that I had to spend an hour modifying the settings and seeking out community help to resolve issues with the graphics rather than just enjoying my first hour of play.
Why is Daisy wearing an IED?
Sometimes we gotta hurt the ones we love, Hito. After, she makes some napalm for us. But first, I gotta fix her.
With a croquet?
Yeah, he fires off the Filimagi. That's my Daisy! True love.
We've already covered the great voice work of the main cast, so let's talk a little bit about the sounds in the game. I was shocked to hear such detail in the weapons and a difference in the acoustics as you traverse around the different settings. One notable moment involved me using a minigun inside a cave, which was closely followed by the rattling of the gun, the clinking of the bullets falling onto the cave floor, recoiling off of it with a satisfying ping. Attention to detail and sound design often makes or breaks a game. Let's use Doom as an example. The finishes performed by the Doomslayer are grotesquely satisfying to listen to. The rending of flesh as the badass soundtrack is ripping through your eardrums is an experience any Doom fan would happily repeat over and over again, and it goes to show that attention to detail really pays off here in Far Cry. Talking about attention to detail, the Latin soundtrack is absolutely banging, so much so that I'd actually be sad if I entered a vehicle and it had no radio. The excellent soundtrack had me vibing while I was flying between my sniper perches with my dog Chorizo strapped to my chest. It went such a long way into immersing me into the island's atmosphere. If it looks like Cuba and sounds like Cuba, it's gotta be Cuba, right? Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the review. Far Cry 6 is the best game in the series in my opinion. A wonderful island to explore, a really strong and tremendous cast of characters, fantastic music, and a plethora of side content to go through. Every part of this game screams improvement. There are still a couple of the same open world tropes that Far Cry is used to, but if you can get over that, this is a tremendous game. I'm going to green light it, but not for the reason you expect. I'm going to green light this because you can get this on the Ubisoft subscription model, which allows you to pay a small fee to access all of their games in their library. Go ahead and go and get this if you're even thinking about this, because you will save so much money and you also get all the other games, which is amazing. If you're thinking about buying this in full price, wait a little bit, wait for the price to drop, because I don't think this is worth $70 right now, or whatever your currency is. Just wait a little bit, let it drop, and then you'll have an amazing time. It is a time sink, but you will enjoy it. You'll love Chorizo, he is a great dog, and I think this is definitely worth the investment. Anyways guys, I'm Alex. This has been the Bearded Breakdown. If you liked the content, feel free to like it. If you loved it, subscribe. It really helps the channel. And I will see you on the next review. We have a busy November coming up. See ya.